Good morning, dear students. This is Vishal sir from Ikra High School. Today we are going to continue chapter 15 from standard 9th NCERT syllabus. Our today's topic will begin from crop production management. Let's first read the lesson and then understand. Crop production management. In India, as in many other agriculture based countries, farming ranges from small to very large farms. Different farmers thus have more or less land, money, and access to information and technologies. In short, it is the money or financial conditions that allow farmers to take up different farming practice and agricultural technologies. There is a correlation between higher inputs and yields. Thus, the farmer's purchasing capacity for input decides cropping system and production practice. Therefore, production practice can be at different levels. They include no cost production, low cost production, and high cost production practices. So, dear students, here we shall discuss about how a farmer gains the higher yield in farming. As we know, the modern farming has set up a new standard of production due to the use of modern equipments and techniques. The inputs in farming are directly related to the yield of the land. When a farmer has the ability to purchase high-end technological equipment, his cropping system varies and he can earn more from his land. Based on this monetary aspect of farming, there are three different types of production in farming. A production based on no cost at all. This is when a farmer does not invest in any equipment of farming in order to better his production. Second would be the low cost production, and third is the high cost production. Now, three main components need to be taken into consideration while talking about crop production management. Firstly, let us look at the nutrient management. Then we will go for irrigation, and yes, water is very important requirement for the farmer, and thirdly for the cropping patterns. So these three patterns we are going to understand now. So dear students, our topic now begins in nutrient management. What do we mean by nutrient management, and how can we manage the nutrient intake of plants? As you know, we all require food for the growth and survival. We also choose our food items. We need the most and eat those nutrients which our body lacks. Similarly, plants also need a variety of nutrients. There are near about 16 nutrients that has been considered for plant nutrition. So from where do these plants get their nutrients? As you know, these plants are in contact with three different layers: the air, water, and soil. So it must be these very places which provide them nutrient. Now, from air, plants obtain carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, while water also supplies oxygen and hydrogen. The soil, on the other hand, it supplies 13 nutrients to the plants. Among these, some are required in large quantities and thus they are called macronutrients, while other are required in small quantities and are called micronutrients. As you can see in the table, the micronutrients are iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum, and chlorine, while the macronutrients that are needed by the plants in most quantity are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So, if these nutrients are not obtained by plants, it may decrease the yield and the growth of the plant. So the deficiency of any of these nutrients may affect the plant growth and may increase the susceptibility to decrease. The lack of any of these nutrients can be overcome by adding nutrients externally like manure and fertilizer. Manure contains a large quantity of organic nutrient. As we know, it is prepared from decomposition of animals and plant waste. Mostly it improves the soil structure, which involves the water holding capacity and also the drainage capacity in clay soil. So this works in all type of soil. Manure is classified according to the material used in preparing it. If the waste of the animals and plants are used for preparing the manure by decomposing them, it is called compost. And if earthworms are used in decomposition, then it is called vermicompost. While if some crops are grown initially and then mulched by plowing them into the soil, such manure is called green manure. Sometimes this manure are not enough for plant. So they need to be given some other medicines also. Now these medicines provide nutrients from the external source. These are called fertilizers, and fertilizers are commercially produced plant nutrients. They supply nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium that ensures the good vegetative growth of the leaves, branch and flowers. These fertilizers are one factor utilized for higher yield in high cost farming. But this fertilizer must be used in very controlled manner, as it is also one of the major cause of pollutant in land and water. Also, its long term use can destroy the soil fertility by destroying and not letting the organic matter replenish. Nowadays, a new farming technique is also in practice. It is called organic farming. In organic farming, no chemicals are used. That is, fertilizers and chemicals like pesticide and insecticide aren't used at all. Instead, biofertilizer and biopesticides are used for healthy and chemical free crop production. One more aspect to keep in mind while growing a good production of crop is irrigation. It is a system of providing water to the crops at proper time and in proper quantity. But in India, most farmers depend on rain for water, as very little land is provided with the proper irrigation system. Thus, we can say that majority of farmlands are rain fed. Even this becomes worse when uncertainty of rain occurs. And as we in India have observed that rain is mostly uncertain. Sometimes it rains like dogs and cats, while some years it rains very little, providing none of water for any crop during rainy season. Though Indian farmers face this type of difficulty, they try to find other source of irrigation. Some are traditional, while some have evolved themselves with new techniques. Wells, canals, river lift system and tanks are traditional, while rainwater harvesting and watershed management and even wind turbine have evolved after scientific approach towards agriculture sector. One more way to increase production and decrease the loss of crop failure is adopting different cropping pattern. The first cropping pattern is called mixed cropping. Here, it requires a set of two different crop varieties. In this pattern of cropping, we can have a farmer planting two types of crop in the same piece of land. The two crops are chosen in such a manner that one does not interfere in the growth of the other. For instance, if wheat and gram are grown together in the same field, the nutrient that wheat depends on will be different from those of the gram. The design of mixed cropping shows that the failure of one crop does not take the toil on the farmer. There always is a backup. And if both do well, then the farmer is assured of double benefits. This is precisely what mixed cropping is all about. The next cropping pattern is called intercropping. In simple word, it means in between. The pattern of planting crops when crops are planted in alternate rows in the same field is called intercropping. Once again, care is taken to ensure that the requirement of the two crops are different. And now we come to the last type of cropping pattern. This is called crop rotation. Only one type of crop is grown in the field at a time. However, once the crop has been harvested, a different crop is then planted in the same field. This process is repeated several times. We call this a pre-plant succession. When plants are growing, it is important to have land irrigated so that moisture is retained in the soil. It is also necessary to add sufficient nutrient to the soil to help plant growth. So these are the two things that you have to keep in mind during crop rotation. Now children, there are 5 main things that constitute potential threat to the crops. The first one is the weather. If it's harsh, it's not good for plant. Then insects, pests, and one more thing. There are weeds. Now what are weeds? Weeds are unwanted plants in the cultivated field. Example is given, xanthium. Now, there may be a question in your mind why this plant or the weed is considered to be a threat. Because these plants too have roots which take up the nutrient from the soil and they compete for sunlight and water with the growing plant. This could seriously damage the crop, leaving them with little or no nutrients at all. So how do farmers usually remove all weeds? They control weeds during the initial stage of soil preparation only. While tilling the soil, almost all weeds are uprooted and they remain so as to provide humus to the soil. However, if weeds grow after the crop is sown, they need to be removed manually. This can be done with bare hands or with medicines. The term medicine is used for the chemicals that kill these plants, specifically the weed only. These medicines are known as weedicides and they are only made to kill the weeds. These chemicals are usually diluted with water and spread over the farms. Farmer also use implements like some khurpi or seed drill to uproot weeds. It is to be noted that weeds should be uprooted before they produce flowers and seed. Weedicide should be sprayed before the flowers germinate, but with extreme caution. These chemicals can prove harmful even to the farmers. And that is why you see farmer covering the nose and mouth with a piece of cloth while spraying these chemicals. After cultivation, irrigation and harvesting, the last step to maintain the crop for longer duration is to store with proper management. The storage space should be well lit and ventilated, as there are many factors which may degrade the produced crop. Cleaning, drying and storing should be must for the harvested crop before storing. For avoiding the germs in stored grain, some of the steps are taken like usage of neem leaves and so on. Animal husbandry. For the improvement of food resource, not only the plant resource are needed to be improved, but animal resource also. As we know, animals provide us with various food items such as milk, egg, meat, poultry, fish, honey, etc. So as the population and living standards are increasing, at the same time the need for milk, egg, meat is also increasing. Thus, there is a need to improve the livestock. Here comes our next topic, animal husbandry. Animal husbandry is a scientific management of animal livestock. It includes various aspects such as feeding, breeding, shelter, and disease control. So now, animal-based farming includes cattle, goat, sheep, poultry, and fish farming. Cattle farming. Cattle farming is done majorly for two purposes, dairy and broth. So dairy is for milk production and broth is for animals, which are used in agricultural tasks like ploughing, transporting, and cutting. So on the basis of this purpose, the cattle are divided majorly into two categories, the milk breeds and the broth animal. Let us see each of them in detail. So milk breed or dairy animals are those animals which are basically used for obtaining milk, and broth animals are those which are majorly used for agriculture and transportation. Now both of these, they usually belong to two species, either a cow, or which can also be called Bos indicus, and a buffalo, that is called Bos bobalis. So now when we know that milk animals are used for production of milk, we also know that milk is a complete food and it is required in huge proportion in our country. But do you know that milk production up to some extent depend upon the duration of the lactation period? Well, lactation means the duration of milk production after the birth of a calf. So milk production can be increased by increasing the duration of lactation. So to get the desirable quantity, the breeding of the animals can be done. For example, exotic breeds like Jersey and Brown Swiss show high amount or long lactation duration period, while local breed such as Red Sindhi or Sahiwal, they show excellent resistance to disease. So now the two can crossbreed to obtain desirable characteristics which are long lactation and the resistance to disease. Now we need to take proper care and shelter for the animals to survive comfortably. These animals also require proper cleaning and shelter facility to live a healthy and also for the clean milk. Now let us see what can be done for the farm management. Animals require proper brushing to remove dirt and loose hair. They should be sheltered under well ventilated roof shades that can protect them from heat, rain and cold. The floor of the cattle shed needs to be sloping so as to keep it dry and also to facilitate cleaning. Next, the shelter should be spacious enough to keep the animal comfortable and also to avoid overcrowding. So now lastly, this shelter should have proper arrangement of clean drinking water. So these are some of the important points for farm management. But a cattle doesn't only need a good shelter, but it also needs food. The food requirement of dairy animal is of two types. The first one is for maintenance requirement. Now, the maintenance requirement includes food which help in regular metabolic activities of the body and the milk producing requirement include the food which is specially required during the lactation. Now if we see the cattle feed is consist of two major components, the roughage and the concentrate. Let's see what are they. So the roughage largely contain fiber such as green fodder, whey and legumes and etc. On the other hand, the concentrates are low in fiber but they contain relatively high amount of protein and nutrient such as cottonseed, gram, wheat and so on. So overall, cattle needs a balanced food which contain all the types of nutrient in a proportionate amount. Now, beside this nutritious food, some amount of nutrition feed can also be added, which are known as micronutrients. So these nutrients can promote their health. It also increases milk output in dairy animals. Now let's see the number of cattle disease. And these disease can be broadly classified into some categories like disease which are caused by parasites, it may be internal or external parasites and so on. So here are the two different types of parasites described. The first is the external parasite like lice, ticks and worms. These external parasites, they live mainly on the skin and cause skin disease. There are also some internal parasites like worm that affect stomach and intestine, while flukes that damages the liver. Some infectious disease are also caused by bacteria and virus. Now these disease can be prevented only through vaccination to the farm animals. There are also some non-communicable disease not mentioned over here, but they are caused due to the deficiency of some nutrient or maybe due to malfunctioning of some body organs. Now the only thing to overcome all this problem is vaccination. Poultry farming. Poultry is the rearing, breeding and caring of domesticated birds like chicken, ducks, turkey and so on. They are reared for their meat and eggs. Poultry birds are generally known as fowls. Now for chicken, mostly broiler chickens are exclusively grown for their meat. Generally these birds grow very quickly in size. The male birds are reared for their meat. However, females can also reared for meat, but generally they are reserved for laying egg. For the proper functioning of the poultry farm, certain aspects have to be kept in mind. First of all, the farm should have safe environment with proper enclosures along with proper ventilation. Second, for rearing and breeding, only disease-free breeds of poultry birds should be selected. And a third, the farm should have proper feed and water facility. Food, proper health and hygiene conditions should be maintained and regular screening for disease outbreak should be done. Fish production. Fishing has been there since the evolution of humans from historic to modern life. Fishes are said to be the main source of protein for most of us. Fishes are categorized as a true fish, that means the fishes with fins and gills, and shellfish, that means fish with exoskeletal structure. Now, these fish are reared for food and they can be categorized into two parts, capture fishing and culture fishing. If they are reared for food in some pond or fresh water or in some estuary, then they are called culture fishery. While the fishes that has been caught directly from the water bodies is called capture fishing. These fish can also be classified from the source of the water they are captured, from sea water, that is marine fish, or fresh water. So fishing can also be done on both the capture and culture of fishing in both the water ecosystem, fresh water and marine water system, marine fisheries. As India is equipped with 7,500 km of coastline, marine fishery has developed at greater extent. Nowadays, modern equipments are also used for fishing in sea and large water bodies. There are some popular marine fishes which include pomfret, mackerel, tuna, sardines and Bombay duck. They are usually caught using many kind of fishing net from fishing and fishing boats. Some marine fish of high economic value are also farmed in seawater. This includes finned fish like mullets, bakti and pearl spots, shellfish such as prawns, mussels and oysters. Oysters are also cultivated for the pearls they make. Now, due to the human intervention, the extent of fishing in large water bodies have increased at larger part, which has now resulted in depletion of natural ecosystem in sea and bays situated near the coastline of India. Fishermen and government have started culture fisheries to save the ecosystem. Inland fisheries. Inland fishery means fishes from fresh water system like lakes, ponds and rivers. These fishes are mostly reared for food. Many times farmers utilize the land for farming for culture fisheries too. They utilize the rainwater to collect in their farmland along with paddy cultivation. Breeding of fishes for food is also subject to be utilized only after understanding the behavior and the living ecosystem of the fishes. Otherwise, all will be in vain. The temperature of the water should be maintained and the types of fishes they live among each other can only be read. If that is not done so, fishes may consume other fishes or the fluctuation in temperature of the water may kill the fishes reared. The rearing of various fish in the same pond at the same time is called composite fish culture. Beekeeping. Beekeeping farms are very common now. The earliest human would have procured honey directly from the naturally beehives. Beekeeping nowadays is done in a structured manner. Small wooden creators, specially designed to create an artificial home for the bees, are made for this bee culture. Now, as these bees are cultured at a specific place, those places are called apiaries. The apiary is an extremely low investment business and surely profitable. It serves as an additional income to most of the farmers. Some bees are reared for wax also. There are two types of bees that are reared. A local variety of bees that are usually used to produce honey for commercial gain, and Italian variety of bees that has some good characteristic. Firstly, they produce more honey than the usual one. Secondly, they sting less. And lastly, they stay in one beehive for a considerably long time. So these are the enough reasons to prefer them over the local varieties. There are also some factors that has to be kept in mind while bee farming, like the quantity and the quality of the honey is dependent on the kind of flowers available over there. If good amount of flowers and the best quality of flowers are nearby the aviary, then good amount of honey and the taste of the honey will improve.